I like how it keeps telling us, your partner in science.
Electrocuted, shot, drowned, crushed, burned in goo. Oh, sorry. I was just thinking of all the ways humans can die. You don't die in any of those ways. You just keep testing and testing.
Do it.
So you know what this is, right?
You need to go through it so I can launch you. Perpetual, falling.
Yeah.
Yep, you have to go through it so I can launch you.
I think...
No, you just keep dropping, because then I launch you. Are you going?
But it's gonna... Yeah.
What's wrong?
Bravo.
Was that necessary?
I forgot to hit the button, to be fair. I didn't necessarily
you forgot.
I did. There, see? I did it right this time. You added a marker?
So I think this is the same thing, right?
Yeah, I have to, and then you have to do it instead. So
Yep.
I expect revenge to come.
Don't know what you're talking about.
This isn't gonna get me motion sick at all. Yes. Whee! Thunk. I made it.
Every time you fail, it's a reminder of the way things used to be. But then there you are. Again.
No, I was literally about to do that to you. It's funny, there's literally video proof of me about to do it to you. Yeah. We're live on YouTube. Hi, everyone. There is going to be some latency, so forgive us for that, because I forgot to turn on low latency. So, welcome. Thank you so much for everyone joining us. We are going to be recording an episode for this in theory, so not in theory, we are. So, we might have to redo some sections so they sound not bad, but mostly we're just going to go. We're going to try to respond to comments. We're looking forward to interacting with you all. So excited you're here. So let's get this started. Hit the music.
Enter your name, pilot.
Hey everyone, we're back. Welcome to Games We Grew Up With, a podcast that relies on nostalgia and a geeky sensibility. Each episode will talk about one of the video games that left an impression on us as kids, put on some rose-tinted glasses, and reminisce about it. Then, replay the game and see how it's held up over the years. This episode, we'll be making the jump to hyperspace and talking about TIE Fighter for the PC. I'm Katie.
I'm Chris.
We're live for our 2-year anniversary, so let's talk games.
Yay! I think I can be heard now.
Yes.
Also, I couldn't think of a better intro spiel than jumping to hyperspace, because I know TIE fighters can't jump to hyperspace.
So,
But
Chris was upset, but tough shenanigans.
I did have to be pedantic because you said jumping to hyperspace, and I said, no, it's got to be making the jump to hyperspace. So there's going to be some pedantry involved because, you know.
It's still us. We might
Star
be live,
Wars.
but
Yeah.
we're still us. We're gonna be pedantic.
But happy 2-year anniversary. This is really exciting.
Hi, thank you everyone for joining us live on YouTube. If you're catching this out in podcast world, you can still go watch it on YouTube as well. It'll be there even after we're done being live, and so you can watch Chris and I not know what to do with our hands.
I always know what to do with my hands. That's as long as we're not sitting on a couch, as you will see. When I'm at a desk, I'm okay.
So, really, thank you everyone for joining us here live today. We're seeing people in the chat, which is awesome and also important because that's how we're doing our giveaways.
Yes.
Yay!
We are doing giveaways for this live episode. We are giving away a couple prints that I picked up at Too Many Games, and the ultimate prize is going to be a Games We Grew Up With hat, which I'm not wearing right now because I thought this hat would be more appropriate.
Yeah, because you're wearing your Star Wars hat.
Yes, I'm wearing my Imperial Officer hat.
But the way
And the live episode is off to a great start because the cat is clawing at my leg right now.
that sounds
So I'm
that sounds
gonna deal with this for the next hour.
right. The way you're going to enter these giveaways, and we will repeat this as they come up, is just talk in the chat. When we see you in the chat, we're going to have various times that we're going to just go and pull a little roulette wheel and decide who gets to win. And then we'll ask you to reach out to us on social media. Let us know on YouTube which social media you'll be reaching out to us on and what account if you're comfortable with it. We'll figure out details if need be. And so we can get you your prizes. So otherwise, really... Chris
We
is
can
showing
share the
off
prizes. It's going to be, so we've got 4 prints. We're going to be giving 2 of them away. The listeners can decide, or whenever the winner can decide. There's one, Kirby's. Ugh. Shy Guys. That way. Samus. And Black Mage.
Woo!
Or
Vivi.
Vivi, I guess.
Vivi. So,
Vivi.
the first giveaway will be at the end of our Trope of the Day segment, so get chatting now. That's when we're going to be entering these names in, and at the end of the Trope of the Day, we will announce who's going to be winning that first prize. So look forward to that, which I think is also... rude. Which is also, I think, a good segue into our Trope of the Day.
Trope of the day live. Also, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at the chat.
I mean, you
All right, Katie, what is our trope of the day?
Today's trope is, are we the baddies?
Are we the baddies?
It.
What can you tell us about Are We the Baddies, other than it's from the wonderful, wonderful Mitchell and Webb show?
So this is the Are We the Baddies, or the villainous POV. This is when a game, TV show, movie puts you in the bad guy's shoes. Often, though not always, you're the sympathetic villain. This trope, though, is just when your main perspective is a villain, is a bad guy in the universe that they exist in some sort of context. Sometimes it can be you're running around as an evil overlord, or it can be, as our game of the day implies, you're just living your empire life and you just happen to be the villain to other people.
Your empire life. That just sounds like a weird, cheesy, like MTV show. My empire life.
My empire life. But as I said, of course, in our game of the episode, TIE Fighter, we play as the Empire. We are a pilot within the Empire. It's almost the equivalent to the bad track of X-Wing, the game. Not the exact missions, but you know how like you have two different ways you can go in a lot of games. You can pick villainous or good, and then this is like the bad track.
If X-Wing and TIE Fighter were the same,
like merged into
game
one
and had
game.
a moral choice system,
but which I'm not really including in these examples are the moral choices, just because that's you choosing. You can choose to be the bad guy, and that works sometimes. But these are characters who are built-in bad guys. That's kind of the way I was approaching this.
Star Wars Squadrons, where kind of what you were saying, you literally bounce back and forth between the Imperial and Rebel campaign.
Star Wars has a lot of this. A lot of Star Wars games, you end up playing as the Empire. You can either choose to, or a lot of times, like Battlefront 2, you're the 501st. Force Unleashed, both 1 and 2. I mean, you can eventually pick the good guys, but you start as Darth Vader's apprentice. You are a bad guy.
Yeah. You start as Darth Vader in the intro level.
True. So, villains. But this does, of course, apply to games outside of Star Wars as well. Pretty much all the Grand Theft Autos, I feel like, fall into this, because you're not a good person in Grand Theft Auto.
No, you really aren't. You're just kind of, you might be an anti-hero, but you're definitely not a good person, which I guess anti-hero is kind of different than Are We the Baddies? Like, like Star Wars Battlefront is another one where it's just the two factions.
Right. But like, again, Grand Theft Auto, you're a bad guy. Hitman, I mean, you're a bad guy killing other bad guys, so I'm not really sure.
That's more anti-hero, I feel like.
He's still a world-class assassin.
Yeah, as well as you said, if you're an overlord, literally the game Overlord.
Yeah.
Which is just Pikmin, but you're a bad guy.
Also true. Slightly more modern, but not really. I think it's like 5 or 6 years old now. There's an indie game called The Witch's House. And you run around with this little girl and you're trying to escape the witch's house the whole time, and there's an old witch that's chasing after you, and then you find out, oh wait, no, you're actually the witch who took the little girl's body and put the little girl into your old lady body, and she's trying to just get her body back.
Wasn't that a horror movie?
There have been body switch
something
horrors
about like
for sure.
Key in the Attic or something like that. Like,
sure, there's been a couple.
Yeah.
But this one, you play the whole game thinking you're just trying to run away from the witch, and it turns out, no,
right.
You are the witch who stole a body, which, spoilers.
This shows up in obviously other mediums as well, like TV shows. Obviously, you've got The Sopranos,
Breaking
Bad, I guess. Again, that's almost anti-hero.
He's
That's
a
anti-hero.
He's a meth dealer. He literally says, I am the one who knocks, to imply he's the bad guy. That's a line he does.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, pretty much all mob films, I feel like, fall into this category, because the mobs are not good, necessarily.
But a lot of those times, they don't necessarily show them, like, they don't try to be the good guys.
No, but that's not what
Like,
this
they
is
always
implying.
acknowledge that they're the monster.
Yeah, but that's not what this is implying. You're just from their perspective.
Yeah,
You're
that's
trying.
fair.
You end up feeling sympathetic towards these characters who aren't good people at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's
my
fair.
point.
Yeah. There's
a suggestion in the chat of Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother as a bad guy, and I love that idea. Fully approve of that.
Oh no.
I mean, for me, the Fast and the Furious franchise, they're not good people in theory. They're car thieves. I mean, they end up saving the day or whatever, but they're car thieves at the end of the day.
Gone in 60 seconds.
All about the family. Gone in 60 seconds. There's a lot of these.
Yeah.
One of the, again, I like to kind of pick indie stories in there. There's a horror film called Behind the Mask: The Rise of Leslie Vernon. And it's in a universe where our, like, movie serial killers like Freddy and Jason Voorhees and, you know, Mike Myers from all the horror franchises are actual, like, villains who, serial killers who went and killed people, but they're almost, like, idolized in this universe, but not entirely. So the whole story is following a guy who's a wannabe, basically, spree killer who's being documented, setting up for his night of, I'm going to go murder these teens. And it's a fascinating look because he's the lead, but it's also crazy.
Which also made me think of Assassins, the musical.
Great
which
point.
is literally, one act play about historical presidential assassins.
Yeah, this is something that we get in so many different type of media that it's a really common trope when you actually start looking into it. That, like, oh wow, we want to root for the bad guys a lot because, you know,
it's like a self-insert thing, right? Yeah. Like, I want to feel, I want to detach myself and feel what it's like to be the bad guy.
Absolutely.
Because hopefully you're not actually going to do any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's valid. But that's why Are We the Baddies, or the Villainous POV, is today's video game trope of the day.
Trope of the day! Live!
Day. And now it's time for an art giveaway.
Yay! How has producer Lisa been doing in the background, frantically typing everyone's names?
Well, there's only 5 people.
Oh, well, that'd make it easy. Oh, Spec Ops: The Line was a good one.
Spec Ops: The Line is a great one because you don't know you're the villain until towards the end. That is one of the best first-person shooter narrative games that has come out in the last decade. They did such a great job of hiding the fact that it was more than just a first-person shooter until you really get into it. So that's a great call.
Because it leaned into the first-person shooter isms, and then it's like, oh.
I just put in their display names.
Okay.
We know who all of these people are to a certain extent.
Okay.
And we will say the display name. We won't say even if we know who we are.
Yeah. So
we know who
producer
you are.
Lisa is rolling the wheel.
Roll that wheel.
No, producer Lisa cannot win the prize.
No.
And it's Thomas Stover.
Thomas Stover.
No left.
Yay! Congrats!
Yay!
Reach out and we'll figure out what and you can pick which piece of art you want.
Yes.
And they're very fun and pretty. Oh. Winner number 1. So.
Oh, look at that.
From our art giveaway, one of, again, first of many, well, first of 3. We now go into, let's talk about, I'm going to start that again.
Hey, it's our first mess up on live stream.
Live stream.
Your first do-over.
First do-over. Okay. On that, though, let's move into our main segment. Let's talk about the game. Chris, tell me about TIE Fighter for the PC.
So, Star Wars TIE Fighter was released in 1994 for PC and Macintosh. It was developed by Totally Games and published by LucasArts. It was a sequel to Star Wars X-Wing, and TIE Fighter was notable because it was the first Star Wars game where you could play as the Empire. So this was a big deal, as we just talked about in the trope of the day. So we always like to talk about turnaround times. this game was released 17 months after X-Wing, which
It's a weird combo of that's longer than some of the other early games we've covered that have turned around within a year,
Yeah.
but that also seems incredibly short for what they did.
yeah. Well, especially so it was built based on X-Wing's game engine, but they improved on it. So they added I forgot to add in my notes. Garage shading, thank you. It was a struggle to figure out how to say that because I don't speak French well. So they added garage shading, which means you get better shading for low polygon models in different lighting, and so it's better than just like flat shading, but it's not as resource intensive as say Phong shading.
These are all words I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say pop quiz. Phong shading, does that ring a bell to you at all?
No.
You remember Reboot?
Yep.
Yes,
I do
character
remember
Phong,
Reboot.
named after that.
Oh, that makes sense. I loved all the callbacks to that show. We're going to get off topic, so we won't go there.
Yes.
Reboot's a great show.
So they added this garage shading. They added an improved AI, and they added a bunch of gameplay features that weren't present in X-Wing, like some extra things here and there. Obviously, totally different amount of ships.
Yeah.
They added a bunch of functionality. We'll get to the actual critical acclaim later, but this was considered by some critics to be one of the greatest video games of all time. Like when it came out and years in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that we talked about it, there's your other redo, because we haven't talked about it yet. Fun fact about this game, the development company that
Total Games?
I know, where are my notes?
I'm looking
Yes,
at
thank you. Yeah, I know. I should have highlighted things more in the notes. So Totally Games, when they made this game, they got a rental house in Fairfax, California, Marin County.
Too funny.
Which has a personal connection to the podcast because we have family that live in that area.
In that general vicinity. So
yeah, that around that. So that was a fun thing to see.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating that the developer Lawrence Holland wasn't actually really a Star Wars fan. Like he liked sci-fi, but like he didn't really care for Star Wars in particular, which is hilarious to me.
Yeah, it's like he was just kind of indifferent to it. Which, there's an article in PC Gamer. It's like the making of TIE Fighter, which I didn't want to quote too much because I always do that deep dives into this dev history stuff. But he talked about how it gave him like that outsider's perspective, and this game came out right around when like the Legacy of the Force books, like the Timothy Zahn books, came out. So like the Star Wars expanded universe was getting created, so like he was like first or second in the door for this expanded universe, and they were letting them kind of do it. So he had just a great amount of freedom to do what he wanted to.
And I think that's why it has elements of this game have continued to pop up in Star Wars world as we move forward. I think because of its prominence of when it came forward. I think because of the popularity of the game as well. But I think the prominence of when it was becoming popular, when this game came out, really helped propel it into the spotlight in a way that maybe other games hadn't had the chance to because of timing wise.
There's a story, with this whole EU thing where they were still figuring it out. I think this was after the game actually came out. They were at a board meeting and they showed George Lucas the packaging for TIE Fighter. Like they gave him the box, and he was like looking at the box and he looked at the back, and he was just like, "This says something about the Imperial Navy. There's no Navy in Star Wars." And then a moment later he said, "Well, I guess it doesn't matter." And then they just moved on. Like
that's so typical George Lucas.
Yeah, like if you read anything about George Lucas, it's just like when they come to him with these like expanded universe stuff, he doesn't care.
No,
like
he doesn't.
He doesn't care about the nitty-gritty stuff.
I don't think he cared about the main stuff for a while, but that's a topic for another day.
Hey.
But getting into the critical response, as Chris said, this was considered one of the greatest games of all time. Still is considered up there. Gaming World gave it a 5 out of 5. Computer Gaming World gave it a 5 out of 5. GameSpot gave it an 8.8 out of 10. Next Generation Magazine, a 3 out of 5. Rude. And Macworld gave it a 4.5 out of 5. One of the quotes from one of the critics, Game Byte magazine gave its original release the very highest recommendation, citing numerous improvements over X-Wing. The reviewer called the graphics astonishing and noted improved artificial intelligence and in-flight information systems. The reviewer's single complaint was the lackluster ending, which we will discuss.
Yes. So Edge magazine praised many of the graphics and gameplay enhancements and new features over X-Wing, but described the missions as repetitive and complained that the game loses appeal when the player isn't fighting for the underdog rebellion, which I disagree with because I've seen a ton of other reviews that said everyone loved it because you got to play as the Empire.
Yeah.
So
again, come to the dark side has a lot of appeal.
We have cookies.
Didn't put that meme in my meme jar, but we have come to the dark side. That'd be great.
So it got a bunch of, I say awards, like, as many awards as video games could get back then. Computer Gaming World and IGN added it to their Hall of Fame. And this was probably the late 90s, early 2000s when they created this. IGN put it in its top 25 games of all time twice. It was number 3 in 2007, and then it moved up to number 2 in 2009.
I appreciate that it goes up.
Yeah. Strategy Plus called it the best game of 94. Bunch of other folks. Like, it was incredibly highly lauded.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. They actually had some expansions to this, talking about that lackluster ending. They came out with a Defender of the Empire expansion that added the missile boat, 3 extra battles, which we'll go into later, and then the combat sim stuff associated with that. That was late 94.
Yeah,
and
it didn't
then
come out too much longer after the game.
In 95, they came out with the collector's CD-ROM, which is what we had.
Yeah, that's what we played when we
Lisa,
were.
Oop! I found it. It was under my thing.
Wait, what? Who?
Hey!
I have the manual. The TIE Fighter collector's CD-ROM manual for the disc. That's what we had. That added an extra 3 battles. That added better graphics and an added voiceover. So we were right. The original game that we played, darn it, we haven't talked about that yet.
That's okay. We're going to be right in the Rose section. That
Welcome
it has
to the real world. This is how it usually goes. Not the flawlessness that you've been seeing so far.
Flawless.
Yes.
No, but it had voiceover. It had so much. There was some controversy around these expansions and the added game because essentially, if you wanted to play the full game, you had to buy a new version. They didn't have DLC back in the day, so they couldn't just add if you had the original game. You had to buy a whole new game, which people weren't exactly happy about at the time, but it's understandable because we just didn't have the capabilities to update online the way nowadays. Kids these days are spoiled.
They did. This was brought up to my attention probably a couple months ago. Someone made a mod in X-Wing Alliance, which is 2 games from TIE Fighter, because after this they had X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and then X-Wing Alliance. Someone took the X-Wing Alliance engine, updated the graphics, and added all the TIE Fighter stuff to it. So that's I think they call that the X-Wing or the TIE Fighter Total Conversion mod.
Yeah, which is
that is
popular online.
Yeah, and they added VR support. So
yeah, and yeah, the fact that fans, again, this is all that fan based. Everyone just wanted to keep living this game into the future, even if they wasn't going to be supported anymore by LucasArts, just because they moved on fairly. It's still well loved, but I think that's a good time. Wow. We're hitting our stride here, folks. No, I think that's a good moment to go back to the past before we had a chance to play the game and see what our actual rose-tinted memories were of the game. So let's play that Ocarina of Time. You all are going online. Nope. All the words are hung. This one, it doesn't even... Anyone who's watching live, so that's fine. You guys are going to see us live in the past because we actually have video of when we recorded our Rose section. So we're... Together! In Miami! So it's time to go back to the past, back before we had a chance to play the game, and let's talk about our memories of TIE Fighter. See y'all in a little bit. And also, chat, this is a time for chat for the next giveaway. So we're going to do another giveaway when we come back from the Rose segment. So talk in the chat. We're looking forward to it. And I'll be able to chat now because I get to watch this video along with you. See you all in a bit.
Yeah, we just got...
That music means we're back in the past, back before we had a chance to play the game, and we're live in Miami, or pre-recorded in Miami.
Oh, this doesn't say Miami on it. That would have been way cooler. Yay!
Yay! Happy 2-year anniversary to us, even though this is months before that happens.
Well, we're remembering it now, so maybe we'll remember it later.
Ha! So, Chris, we haven't played the game yet. Tell me, what do you remember about TIE Fighter?
So I have played this game not super recently, but within probably a handful of years because I love this game so much. Like, when I found out that it was, well, slightly less legal versions on DOSBox, I found it, and then it's on Good Old Games and Steam, so I own it on both of those right now and have played it. But I remember a lot about this game. The big thing that stands out to me about this game was... we needed more memory in our old computer.
That makes sense.
I don't know if we tried to play it or knew from, the requirements on the box. We had to bring it to a shop and buy more memory, and
I don't remember that. That's funny.
We had to wait like a week, if not weeks, to get like 4 extra megs of memory or something like that installed, like an absurd, like, obviously it's a game
nowadays it seems obscene. And again, this is the old computer that we've played all of our PC games on basically up to this point. It sat in our parents' bedroom, so we were always limited in how often we could play it. This is a game that shocking no one when it comes to flight simulator style game. I mostly just watched Chris play because I was bad at it.
Yeah, and this wasn't even real flying. It was space flying. So,
with space meters?
God, stupid space meters. Meters in space!
So...
oh, God.
So, it was a game I have a ton of memories of without, I don't know if I ever played it even. Like, I genuinely tried to remember if I actually sat and played the game, and the most I feel like was you might be like, here, hold this while I go do something.
Right.
Because it was on the joystick. Like, we had the really crappy black and red joystick we had. And I don't remember a ton of playing it, except for maybe in those moments.
Yeah. I think you're going to have a lot easier time on this than Chuck Yeager, because I remember going from this game and X-Wing to Chuck Yeager, where you actually had to, like, roll and turn.
Yeah.
This one, you just go left, and it doesn't need to be left.
The whole point of Chuck Yeager was to be accurate-ish.
Yes.
And this is not accurate to anything because it was in space, and it was a vehicle that, in the grand scheme of things, you can't actually fly.
Right.
Thank you, producer Lisa.
She did warn
anyone.
Yeah. This is more when we talked about in the Tech Talk episode about flight sims. This is more of your arcadey flight sim.
It was for fun.
Yeah.
So I couldn't remember. I'm assuming we played this after X-Wing.
Yes. Yeah. We had a bootleg copy of X-Wing.
Yes.
With the I know, with the Xeroxed manual with the little codes. This didn't need any of that because it was a CD-ROM.
Yay!
So,
update.
Because I remember having to go back into DOS and go to the
D drive or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like tie.exe. Go!
That's actually really exciting.
And it had that iconic that I still remember when I played it again, the music of the LucasArts sliding in.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great call on that sound effect. And that's, again, because I think I never played the game, I feel like the music and the sounds are what stick out to me. And watching it, yes.
Yeah.
But, like, those little things are what tend to pop up in my memory when I'm thinking of things.
It's mostly sounds. I feel like the music was incredibly forgettable because it
Well,
was
that's
some
fair.
MIDI track. I'm trying to remember. I think it was voiced.
So I thought it was voiced too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's accurate or not, or if
Because
I just made that up.
there's different versions. There's like, TIE Fighter CD and then like TIE Fighter CD Deluxe. So I know the version that I have now has it's voiced and the videos cutscenes are a little bit more complex. I think it still talked to you in the version that
I want to say it talked to you, even like if it's really garbled kind of basic stuff.
Yeah.
I want to say it talked to you, but I think before we get too much more into the actual gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
I want to discuss a little bit about the fact that this game obviously hit so many boxes for you in particular, but for both of us. The reason I liked watching this game, so I always liked watching video games, but we loved Star Wars.
Oh, absolutely.
We've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but I realized this is the first time we're playing a Star Wars game for the podcast.
Yeah.
And we loved Star Wars. We used to watch it on VHS all the time as kids, like really bootleg VHS copies of the movies. And it was amazing. And we loved it. So Chris having a flight simulator game, so he gets to fly and do all that. And it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
It was like...
This was like our first exposure to any of the sort of expanded universe type stuff, right?
Like, and I don't think I had a concept of canon versus expanded universe versus like, so it was just like, this is just more Star Wars in my mind. That's okay, but I don't know if I differentiated back then that this might not be canonical, because I don't think I knew what the word canonical was.
Right.
I shoot things.
Yes.
Church.
Oh, that's
That's
a
a
level.
different canonical.
Yeah.
That's a different
That's
canonical.
way different.
But that's why like Star Wars was just we love Star Wars, and that's why this game also I think stuck out and meant so much. I think you enjoyed playing it, of course, but I think that's why it stuck out so much more to me than like I remember you playing Chuck Yeager, but I remember much more of TIE Fighter, and I think because it was Star Wars, I was more interested in.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they had Admiral Thrawn in it. He was a character
who has now come into the canonical universe. So
I know, that's weird.
As of recording, he's legit-ish.
You think Timothy Zahn gets any sort of royalties for creating that character?
No, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I mean, I remember him. I remember like Admiral Harkoff, Admiral Zarin. Both of those guys were like traitors.
Yes.
Spoilers. Spoilers.
Spoilers.
Because there is a plot to this game. Like, it's set up kind of like we shouldn't go into this now, I guess, because we'll talk about that in the main episode. I remember that the setup was very similar to X-Wing, where it's like, here's your training, here's your practice skirmishes, and then here's your campaign.
Right.
And the campaign was like 4 to 8 missions or something like that.
It wasn't long.
No.
It was not a long game. And I think that was good for us back then. So you felt like you accomplished something pretty easily in this kind of game. In not a mean way, but like you got it done. And you're like, yes, did it.
I think one of the big things I remember about this game is that it was the same as X-Wing, where it had cheats.
Yes.
But in this one, you could actually advance in the campaign with the cheats on.
Ooh, does that mean I can do that when we play?
Yes, I still do it in the current playthroughs.
Yay, get the cheat.
Yay! I mean, who knew? Flying a TIE Fighter is hard because they're...
Shocking horror, it's hard.
Weak little aircrafts.
British Kyle just showed us the Are we the baddies meme?
Yes!
Yes, we are the baddies, and it's fun.
They try to put a spin on it.
They do.
That pro-imperial propaganda, from what I remember, Because you had like the one officer you always talk to, and then there's like the dude in the robes that was like,
oh
the
god,
Emperor's
yeah.
secret guy or whatever.
They did, again, they tried to enwrap it in the main universe as much as possible.
Yeah.
And there were cutscenes. Like,
Yeah.
they weren't long and epic, but there were cutscenes. And again, it was more than just a flight sim.
Right.
There was more to it than that. Again, another reason I think it stuck with me, and I
Right.
actually enjoyed watching it more as much as I liked Chuck Yeager, is because I actually understood what was happening, because there was actually something to understand.
Yeah.
Not just a World War II battle for Chuck Yeager.
I mean, that was part of it. But
Yes, fine. It was not just a historical battle that I had no context of. I knew the context because they told me the context.
Yeah. I remember it being such a massive step up from X-Wing, right? Like, graphics-wise, sound-wise.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of, like, you want to root for the good guys and stuff like that, but it's fun being the bad guys, too, sometimes.
Sometimes. I mean, I didn't care. I just wanted to fly around and
Yeah, that sounds right.
shoot things. It's
That-
a terrible thing to say when I say it out loud, but... Yeah.
It's fine. That tracks.
Going back to the sounds, I remember, and also kind of the playthrough, you had like primary objectives, secondary objectives, which are the robed dude, and then secret objectives.
Yes, I do remember that.
And they wouldn't show you the secret objectives. Like, you could kind of infer them.
Well, I feel like early missions, they were like hinted at more, and then so the further you got in the game, the more buried the secret missions would feel.
I remember as soon as I wrote down my note about primary objectives, whatever, I remember when you mess up and fail, there's like the line. This is why I think that it was voiced, or it sticks out to me. It's like, abort mission of failure. And then, like, the officer dude comes on, like, the radio and, like, chides you and makes fun of you.
Yeah, because they're the baddies. They're not going to be nice to you about it. They're not going to be like, that's okay. They're like, way to screw up. I mean, not in those words, but still. They're going to call you out.
Yeah.
View 1, mission critical craft, shields down.
Yeah.
View 1, mission critical craft, hull conditions critical. View 1, mission critical craft, destroyed. Abort mission of failure.
There it is.
Your orders were clear. Disable the transport. Then see the shuttle safely to the Red Claw.
Random producer note. I think there's some astronauts that might take issue with host Chris referring to it as not real flying because it's in space.
There's a fair point in that, but this is not real space. I call it a space sim. It's not a space sim because, you know, these things wouldn't work in space unless you've developed reactionless drives. So, not quite the same, but yes, fair point.
Nerd.
Yeah, I know. With some technological leaps, but, you know, Star Wars. So.
It is This is a long time ago. We lost the technology they had.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
You do have a degree in aerospace engineering.
That is true. That's technically what my degree is in.
But you did the aero side of
That
the
is true.
space side.
Yes. I took like a half a class in space stuff, and I knew it wasn't for me anyways. But
Because Chris likes planes.
I do. I like things that follow like I won't even say normal physics because obviously space physics are still physics.
Who wants to see a Star Wars style wipe cut?
Oh, that's gonna happen.
That's definitely going to happen.
So I feel like I could talk about this game forever because I remember so much about it, but we'll leave that for the main episode. Let's just go to scores now. Katie, what is your Rose score of this game?
And again, this is going to be one of the ones, and I don't even think I ended up rating Chuck Yeager, which is probably a bit of a cop-out. Now that we've done enough episodes, I probably should have rated it anyway. So I won't do that again. But it is tough because I didn't play this game. I just genuinely don't remember playing it. I remember watching you play. But I loved watching you play. I also know this is it was probably the reason I didn't play was because I was going to suck and get confused and get overwhelmed. So I can't give it higher than a 7. Just because I don't think I would have played it well, or I didn't want to. I didn't actively want to play this game. I actively wanted to watch this game.
Which
and that's
is legit.
very different.
Yeah.
So what about you, though, Chris? You not only actively played the game, you've continued to play it over the years.
I mean, Rose score is a 9.5, I would almost give it a perfect 10, but I'm fairly certain I got stuck in one of the campaigns, and
That sounds right.
annoyed me.
Yeah.
So, only because I couldn't finish the game, I'm going to give it a 9.5.
That's valid. Even with cheats, you couldn't finish?
No, just because of the objectives, you had to probably guard someone, and they always died.
Yeah, we know how those
What I was
goes.
doing, yeah. Escort missions.
Calling all the episodes back in this anniversary episode. Okay, then what's your predicted score for playing it again?
I'm going to go with a 9. I really think, because, again, obviously I've played it within the past, 5 years.
Sure.
I'm going to give it a 9. I think it's going to hold up fairly well, even compared to, I would say, more modern flight sims, but there aren't really any good ones.
As we discussed with Chuck Yeager, there just aren't really modern flight sims anymore.
Even
or
like
very few.
Squadrons is not... I feel like Squadrons is almost incredibly shallow compared to this game.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. What about you? What is your predicted score now that you're actually going to go back and play it?
Oh, God.
Or just play it, I guess.
I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it an 8 because I feel like the plot and the Star Wars-ness is going to pull me more in than I could have with Chuck Yeager. Like, I just couldn't connect to Chuck Yeager, which is, of course, my touch point on this because it's the flight sim we played.
Right.
I can connect to Star Wars.
Yeah.
I do connect to Star Wars. It's something that I have been passionate about my whole life, and so I feel like I'm more likely to make more of an effort to connect to this game, and so I think it's going to be an 8, because I do have great memories of watching it, and I know in a biased way of what you've said about it, that you've enjoyed the way it plays a lot better, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, hoping that can overcome my crappy flying skills.
Again, way easier than Chuck Yeager. So.
I mean, at least I won't crash into the ground.
That's true. You will not crash into the ground. So.
I'll just crash into a Star Destroyer.
That's a cheat. You can just fly straight through it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Can she stall out?
No, also. So.
This is going to go great.
One of my favorite clips of that episode. So there you have it. Our row scores are a 7 and a 9.5, and then our predicted scores are an 8 and a 9. I know we say this a lot, but I'm really, really, really looking forward to playing this again.
Yeah.
I cannot wait, and I cannot wait to stream it so I could just babble about Star Wars the entire time while I'm doing it.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of Star Wars trivia in the streams that you've already seen. So, I think it's time to play that Ocarina of Time, head back to the present where we are live talking to you if you're watching with us on, and we'll see y'all then. Let's play that Ocarina of Time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye from Miami. And we're back to the present. Welcome back to the present, everyone. Yeah, I know. I did the power pose a lot. A lot.
It's really hard sitting on a couch knowing what to do with your hands.
What do I do with my hands?
Also, I didn't point out. I should point out the shirt that I'm wearing. The Your Empire Needs You.
Whereas I'm just wearing Han and Leia taking a selfie.
Yeah, well.
I have an AT&T necklace.
That should have been with the Are We the Baddies?
I have an at
plug.
necklace.
Oh.
But it's time for another art giveaway. So thank you everyone who's been chatting, and thank you again for everyone joining us here live on the stream. Reminder, we are on a 30-second delay, so if it seems like there's weird gaps, that's why. But it's time for another art giveaway. So producer Lisa, roll that wheel that has all the names on it and tell us who's going to win a piece of art.
And where did the art go?
It's going. Brian Jankowski.
Hey,
Brian!
You are our next winner. So you get the choice. We'll give you the choice right now, and we're gonna have to wait 30 seconds. Obviously, don't know if you saw it's the Kirby's, Shy Guys, Samus, or Black Mage.
So let us know which one you want, and then reach out to us on your social media platform of choice. The social media platform of choice, and reach out to us and let us know if you're comfortable with your address, and then we can just send you stuff. So yay! Thank you for joining on. There's one more giveaway. Again, it's at the end of the episode. It's for a Games We Grew Up With hat. Ooh, Chris brought it to show off. So stick around.
Not this hat, because I've worn this hat and no one wants this hat.
No one wants the gross hat.
You get your own hat. You'll get your own color combination. There's several color combinations that you can do, but it will have the GW logo on it.
So stick around.
Turbulicious. Oh wait, that's not directly.
Stick around to the end of the episode if you want that. Otherwise, it's time to talk about the game now that we've played the game. So Chris, let's go more into that plot of TIE Fighter.
There is a plot. So the plot of TIE Fighter, it picks up soon after the Battle of Hoth, or the Empire's victory over the Dirty Rebels at
Victory.
Hoth. You play as, in the game, an unnamed pilot, but if you read the strategy guide or novella that was released after this, you are Merrick Steele.
Often misspelled online.
Yes. Fun fact, this pilot ended up as a pilot, playable, not really a playable character. He was in the X-Wing miniatures game.
Woo.
As a card for a pilot. I looked through my stuff because I played that game for a bunch. I do not have his card, so I can't show it off because the meta didn't support TIE Advanced at the time, which is what he flew.
That's funny.
So it picks up after Hoth. It follows just the development through, like, the Empire making new weapons, new TIE fighters. You get the TIE Advanced, you get the TIE Defender, eventually the missile boat. You just go through various actions against rebels. You also fight pirate factions. At some point, you intervene in a civil war. Like, you help one side, then you help the other side, then you just pretty much defeat both sides, and you're like, yo, cut it out.
Stop it.
Stop that nonsense. The original game, so we said that there was kind of a bunch of different missions. The original plot ended with one of the traitors, Admiral Zarin, kidnaps the Emperor in a coup.
Which is wild.
And which is just crazy to think about. Dude could shoot lightning out of his hand and gets kidnapped somehow. But you have to save the Emperor. That is the end of the first story. The expansion pack ends when you essentially destroy a gigantic factory that was manufacturing TIE Defenders because the Empire wanted TIE Defenders to be their own. So you blow up this big factory defended by a ton of stuff. And the third act, the CD-ROM, ends with you capturing Admiral Zarin, and it ends literally right before Return of the Jedi.
So much it's the Battle of Endor, and literally the ending scrawl is like, yes, with the Empire's sure victory on Endor, we will end this battle. And, you're like, ooh,
it's like, we got a surprise for those rebels at Endor.
This falls into the trope of your terrorists or other people's heroes or vice versa.
Yes.
Depends on your perspective. I think they do actually call them.
Or a moon of Endor.
Well, they say the Battle of Endor.
It's the Battle of Endor. It's the Battle of Endor, which was about a moon around Endor.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they use them interchangeably, and it makes me angry.
Well, it's the forest moon of Endor, which is what they always say.
So yeah, it's complicated to say. It's a mixed ending in that sense, because you've learned to be part of the Empire and you're about to lose, but at the same time it's Star Wars. The good guys have to win.
But who are the good guys? We're just fighting pirates and keeping those dirty rebels from
those terrorists. They call them terrorists at various points of the game.
They also talk about I don't think they ever say, they say interrogation, but they say like interrogation in quotes.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh no.
It's not good. All the story elements are pretty much told to you in the mission briefings and in cutscenes, like we called in the Rose section. There are actually voiceovers and cutscenes, and you meet Mon Moth there, and Mothma. I keep wanting to call him Mothra. Mon Mothra. No, Mon Mothma. You see Mon Mothma. She's the only female to show up in the whole game, so there you go. And she's very minimal, to be fair.
Technically, the pirate leader at the end of Battle 10 was a female.
Oh, okay. All right.
She's just captured and made to serve the Emperor afterwards.
History is written by the victors.
Yeah.
Go on.
So that's pretty much the plot. It's the missions are varied. Let's talk about the mechanics of the game, because there was a plot.
But that's not why everyone played the game.
Yeah. So this game we talked about in the Rose section. It was what I call an arcade shooter. It is technically a 6 Degree of Freedom shooter. 6 Degree of Freedom simulator, which means you have all 6 axis.
You can go anywhere.
Whatever. It's not like one thing that I forgot we said in the Rose section was that this was our first Star Wars EU experience, but we had played X-Wing, obviously.
Yeah.
And we had played Rebel Assault. I don't know if you remember that at all.
No.
Rebel Assault was an old, especially the flying sections were rail shooter type stuff.
Oh,
but this was
the same.
Yeah, no, that's why I said this is a full 6-DoF simulator, but it was a coordinated simulator. So it was like if you went left on the joystick, you would kind of veer. I got my little models.
Where's your TIE fighter?
Instead of, as we talked about in Chuck Yeager, where you would roll, which would just be a roll, and you would have to pull up to turn. If you went left, it would just make you kind of veer left. You would roll a little bit. So at some point you would end up upside down. But you could just go up and down and then left and right.
I went
it's
upside
a lot
down
more approachable.
A lot. And
What?
I went upside down a lot, I'm pretty sure. Because I was getting dizzy some of this playthrough, because I'm just kind of spinning, and because of the free spin, which is both good and bad because you can go anywhere, but it also meant I was like, I don't know where I'm pointed. So it was good, but it also rough on my brain who gets motion sick.
Yeah, that's fair. So it's one of the easier types of flight sims that you could do.
Yeah.
And there's no ground, which is helpful.
Yeah, and you can turn off collisions.
Right? Oh yeah, that was a big thing. There was 3 types of cheats. Cheap. There was 3 types of cheats that we remembered from Rose, where you could turn off collisions, you could have unlimited ammo, and you could be invincible essentially.
Yeah.
And I always played with those because it's just more fun that way. Honestly,
it's more fun.
The game's hard enough as is, especially early game when you're playing TIE fighters and anything without shields.
And I think that's an important thing to note. Even though the game is called TIE Fighter, you fly other things outside of TIE fighters throughout the game.
You fly pretty much the entire arsenal that was known to that point, plus some other stuff like TIE Fighter, TIE Interceptor, TIE Bomber, Assault Gunboat, which is like a Lambda shuttle that's been modified.
For anyone watching the live stream, here are all the different types of TIE fighters out there.
Yeah.
We didn't fly all of them, but oh my god, there are a lot.
Yes. TIE Advanced, which was Darth Vader's TIE fighter, sort of. TIE Defender.
TIE Bomber.
I said TIE Bomber.
Did you?
Keep up. Oh yeah, look at that. I know I'm 30 seconds behind. You can only fly about, like 6 or 7 of these. 8, 9. Let's see. TIE Fighter, TIE Fighter, TIE.
It's gonna go away.
TIE Raptor's way. Yeah, TIE Raptor's way later.
It's a bunch of different ones. But you do get to do a bunch of different TIE adjacent crafts. But there's also the Imperial shuttle. Imperial shuttle? No, the gunship.
Assault Gunboat.
The gunboat.
Which is based on the shuttle.
Which is
and
based
the
on the
missile
shuttle.
boat.
They look the same.
They do.
And those can go into hyperspace, which is why my beginning entry is still accurate for this game, because you go into hyperspace in those.
Yes. Well, and that was, because ties couldn't end. So if you wanted to end, the mission, you could just hit Q, which was, you know, kind of cheating.
Yes. But it made things faster because as we were playing, there's a lot of hurry up and wait. A lot of it. Of like, get there. You have to do this in a certain amount of time before it blows up or before your dumb helpers blow something up that you don't want them to blow up. And then...
let's hold on to that thought. Yeah. Let's barrel through the rest of this stuff.
No, I know. But then you'd be waiting for things to show up.
Yeah. So the base area, kind of the hub world, if you will, was divided up as we remembered into like 3 areas. There was the training course, which was like an obstacle course. They had that in X-Wing, where you're just flying through a bunch of gates and
shooting at targets.
Shooting at targets. It's a timed thing. You could get like patches from that if you got like 7 levels in. There was what they called the combat simulator, which was really your tutorial-esque type stuff, which I thought they did a really good job with the tutorials there. If you stepped through everything, because they would tell you all the keys that you needed. So it's like, hit this key. This is how you modify everything.
Yeah, it was like, this is how you use the keys. Because here's another thing you're going to put on the screen, and we'll talk for all the people watching live. There are so many controls to this game.
Oh, yeah.
Holy moly, I did not remember this. Of like all of the buttons.
Because you never played it before this.
Yeah, I thought I had. I didn't. There's no way I did, because there's so many controls. Like, it's just, I actually had this screen. I screenshotted this screen and had it next to me on a screen next to me as I'm playing, so I could have it as a reference guide as I was playing, because there's so many, and it's just, it stressed me out. You didn't use most of them most of the time, but just in case you needed it, I just had this sitting on my screen.
There was a core amount that you needed.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why when I started, I streamed a couple times with just normal streaming, and then I was like, I really need to show a video of what my hands are doing during this game, because it's a lot. It
was a lot.
So if you look at some of the VODs, there's a lot, especially if you want to take advantage of everything that they added, which I think is in credit to this game. I got distracted again. Let me talk about the campaigns.
But that's part of it. You were learning that in the combat simulator.
Fair enough.
And then you have the battle area, which is the actual plot in the campaign. So this is where you would go into a room, and there were a couple different things you would do. You'd go up to a screen that showed you the mission, but it was the mission map.
Yeah.
So they'd show you your enemies, they'd show you where you and your teammates were going in, and kind of general movements. Then you had the mission briefing, where you could get that kind of in details again and ask a little more specifically, like, what ship am I going to be flying? What are my final goals? And then
what's my opposition?
What's my opposition? And then that was all for your primary goal of the mission, because there was always primary goals. Then sometimes, or almost always, there were secondary goals. Where you got your secondary goals was the hooded, cloaked figure. He would always be off to the side, and you'd go up to him and be like, how do I serve the Empire? Or Emperor. It was just specifically the Emperor. It was like, how do I serve my Emperor?
It was like the Secret Order of the Emperor or something like that.
Yeah.
Which, we definitely remembered. And so these, your secondary goals, just like kind of above and beyond. Which can I say, sometimes when they're
beat the mission.
Yeah, you didn't need to do that to finish the mission.
Yeah.
Sometimes when there was, like, you saw the door where he would normally stand and it was closed, I was almost relieved sometimes, because I was like, oh God, good. There's nothing extra I need to worry about.
Because normally that's the more stressful of, like, you can't just blow that ship up. You need to, like,
you have to inspect something or disable something.
Yeah. And then there were secret missions, which you just discovered along the way. A lot of times associated...
Which we said they didn't show you. Yeah. You could kind of telegraph what they were based on some of the other goals. It was like, when it was like, destroy this ship, and the bonus goal would be like, well, inspect it and then maybe
Capture it.
Mm-hmm. Or like if you had to disable a craft for a secondary goal, you would have whatever ship would board it and capture it actually finish this mission without getting destroyed.
Right.
So like there was a ton. Go ahead.
Yeah, or it'd be like, hey, your primary mission is destroy all the X-wings, and then your bonus mission was destroy all the Y-wings. Like sometimes it was that simple too, of just like you don't have to destroy all the other enemy ships, but if you do, you get a bonus.
Yeah.
So
and then, sorry, I'm just burping.
Gross. We are live. Chris is.
I know.
With your White Claw.
With my White Claw, yeah.
So that were the mechanics of the game, and you'd go through, and then there would be different battles that had different missions from within. So they normally were kind of linked in a row of like battle 1 was like find these ships. Battle 2 was like, oh well, you've captured them. Now you need to see where they like follow the one to a different location or something. Like they normally were associated. And then, or that was mission 2 within battle 1.
Yeah.
So
because there was always different types of goals, right? Like destroy, disable, inspect, wait for something to arrive,
protect,
and survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Escort. There were some escort missions.
Escort missions. Those were the worst.
They're awful. As we said in the Rose, it all comes up.
There was a decent amount of varied. I mean, there was varied missions, but as you said, some of them were very hurry up and wait. Like, especially if you use the cheats. If you were doing well and like got rid of all the enemies quickly, you would have to sit there for like 5-10 minutes waiting for stuff to fly around, which is good. Well, they had a handy feature where you could speed up time.
What?
So,
you didn't tell me this.
Well, you never needed it.
So, I think it's time to get into our actual experience. Speaking of, like, how did we feel when we were actually playing? Because I did about as much as I expected to do, which was not a ton because I'm awful at these kind of games, and I needed basically Chris as my co-pilot to help me not fail.
Well, as you said earlier, there's so many buttons. And again, why I said that I had that secondary camera to show what I was doing on the keyboard and what I was doing with with the joystick.
There was just so much going on.
And you were playing with a controller.
Yeah, so I was playing with an Xbox controller.
Which I think is a massive disadvantage because I literally had to play with one hand on the joystick and one hand on the keyboard. Like, it's just the only way because there's so many keys, like, off the top of my head, like, W, switching weapons. X, switching how many of those weapons you could use.
T
R,
is toggle.
Nearest enemy.
Yeah,
T is toggle the different targets. Enter is match the speed of your target. The square brackets, left and right square brackets, was 2/3 and 1/3
Backspace
throttle.
was full
Backspace
throttle.
was 0 throttle.
No, full.
And that mattered when you were dog fighting and
full throttle for backspace.
Yep, I said it wrong again. Backspace is full throttle. Backslash is 0. I
need more than Chris.
Like there was other screens that you could look at. There was the goals screen.
It was
you could go, would tell you what you had to do. Yeah, there was.
You could go from the perspective of whatever ship you're targeting. And
yeah,
so
there was a map. The map was incredibly important because
it was just
the AI was smart enough. Or they planned out the stuff smart enough where
overwhelming. Yeah. There was so much going on. It was really overwhelming at times, but it was still a lot of fun. It was still Star Wars world. The AI were dumb. Like, it both smart and dumb. They were very, very good at certain things, and they could target things for you, and you could send them to locations and everything like that. Like, in general, for AI, they were better than most at the time period, especially. Like, you weren't going to have AI as smart as them. But good Lord, they would just you would have a mission that's like, hey, don't destroy this ship, escort it, and they'd be like, we shot it for you, you're welcome, and you're like, oh no.
Which is why they helpfully had commands like ignore target or go home. Like Katie, you sent me a thing where it's like Yeah, there's the mission where you literally have to save the Emperor, and you have to tell your wingmen not to shoot the shuttle that he's in.
Because they're gonna
even
kill
if
the
they should know,
Emperor.
because it's the damn Emperor in the shuttle.
Don't shoot the Emperor. I mean,
Don't shoot the Emperor.
so not always helpful, but they did contribute at least. They didn't completely miss every shot. They were contributing. It was a lot, though. It was overwhelming, especially for me who isn't a big flight sim person.
Mm-hmm.
It was really overwhelming after a while. Like, there's just so much to do. And it's not a bad thing necessarily, but it took me so many sessions in the training sessions and the combat simulator to even just know what I was doing. And a joystick is pretty much required for any of the CD-ROM version. So not everyone has joysticks just laying around. So that's why I used a controller for it. But that's just, it's tough. Like, you can't even play the game with mouse if you wanted to, because it requires a joystick. If you're playing through Steam, which I was, it was like, you need to put a joystick in.
Yeah.
And so that can be, it's hard to then get into it if you're new because of things like that.
And it's not even the control stuff. Like, all those buttons that I talked about are literally just the controls for the aircraft.
Yeah.
There's, like, as I was saying, the map screen, which is helpful because they do a good job of throwing enemies. Like, if you're not careful, you'll go chase someone that's like 10 clicks away, and then all of a sudden you've left people behind coming from a different direction, and you've got to... So the map is helpful. Yeah, like there was the one screen where you could literally pull up what a target's doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's attacking this person, and he's there's this much time, and he's this far away. Like, if you didn't know about that screen and check it constantly, the game is super, super... Yeah. I mean, it's hard anyways.
But that's why using the cheats made it so much easier for us, of having unlimited ammo so I didn't have to stall, for having invincibility, for... Like, it made the game playable for someone like me. So it's funny that the game had these levels of not gatekeeping, but like making it tougher to play because of how complicated it was. But then it's almost like they acknowledge that, and so they're like, to make it up to you, here are things to make it easier. I
mean, I also played with the cheats, and there were levels that I had to do many, many times. Yeah, like, I remember I got to that it was like Battle 10, Mission 1, where you've got to wait for 2 shuttles to dock, and then when they finish docking, disable one, protect the other, and destroy everything.
That's too much.
Even with cheats, you've got to be so on the ball. Like, there's so much. This game is there's so much going on. And I said this in the Rose, like, games like Star Wars Squadrons, they're great games, they're gorgeous games, but they just didn't have that complexity. Yeah. Like, which makes it more, I won't even say more approachable.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair. Like, but this game was so deep. Like, producer Lisa has to pee, so she's going to wander away.
I'm sure she wanted you to tell the whole internet that.
It's fine.
It's not like they wouldn't notice I was gone.
So, there's a lot going on. It's both hard to approach at times, but not. It's a very weird mix. But I think because of the genre itself, because it's Star Wars, people are going to be more than willing to try.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge part of it. It's one of the reasons, as I said in the Rose, why I liked watching, despite there being a lot of waiting and doing nothing. Because it's still, it's Star Wars. You get to fly a TIE fighter. That's freaking cool.
Graphically, it was amazing at the time.
And now.
Now it's not great. But, like, every different aircraft has a different shaped cockpit. Like, because there's, like, so many gauges essentially that you have to look out for, like engine power, laser power, shield power if you have it, beam power, how many warheads you have, because there's different types of warheads you could pick. And there's the scopes, so that's your radar, and the little heads down and heads up display.
Yeah,
there's so much going on, and it's
The
They
nuances.
had different ones.
I was gonna say the nuances of each ship having a different layout was really impressive to me. I'm like, oh, things have moved because I'm in a different ship, and I appreciate
I
that.
do remember seeing you on stream.
But
We were
it's
like,
complicated.
where is stuff now?
It's complicated.
Yeah.
And I think with all of that said, we had so much to go through and so much to talk about, but I think we'd be here forever.
I got more to talk about real
Chris.
quick. Real quick. I know.
What is
but
it?
this is important.
Okay.
This is important because it was a very, very I thought it was a very important part of gameplay. We talked about how the music was mostly forgettable.
Yes.
But they had like leitmotifs that would cue at different times. So like if you would just be flying around, it's normal music. If enemies jumped in, they would play a cue, like the music would change. If an ally was destroyed, they would play a little music key. And that was a way to, even if because they showed stuff on the bottom, on like the little text screen that you could check. If you hit L, it would show the log, whatever. Yeah. But that was a way to be like, oh, something just happened. I need to figure out what just happened. So like, even if the music was forgettable, and I remember most of it once we came back to it, but just the fact that they would play those little musical cues when important things were happening, I thought was so interesting and helpful.
No, I agree, and I think it's interesting because that adds to the whole experience of the sim element of it. I mean, well, in real life,
it's immersion.
It's immersion, yeah. In real life, you wouldn't get music or anything, but they not only had the musical cues, but things like we talked about, getting the mission wrong in the Rose segment. But like they'd tell you screwed up, or you need to be careful because the ship that you're supposed to be protecting is under attack. They would tell you these things as part of immersion, and I did appreciate that. Because it's hard to keep track of everything, so they helped you keep track of everything.
Yeah. I thought this game was very well put together, but I'm going to say that again because we could finally go into conclusions.
And so
I've hit my notes.
Fair enough. So, with all that said, and again, tons to say about this. We could probably talk even longer about this, but we do have to cut ourselves off at some point or another. Chris will be here for days. So, Chris, what is your final score for TIE Fighter?
It's 9.5. It's not even a question. Like, the graphics haven't aged well, but I thought the gameplay is just so good. As we said, there's some hurry up and wait, but I think it's as approachable as it can be. It can be overwhelming. But for me, I know the game well enough. Like, just going back and playing it, and I said I played it a handful of years ago. I'm going to finish it at some point. Like, I don't think I quite finished the game. But I love this game, and I think it still holds up fairly well in terms of arcade shooter, flyer type things. I loved playing this game again. What about you, Katie? What is your final score?
I think my final score has to be a 7.5. Only because there was just so much. It was so overwhelming, and it was so hard for me to start. To just look at those controls and be like, holy moly, there's so much to do. And there's so much going on. And it's funny, by the time I actually started getting into the missions and doing it, I felt more comfortable, and I liked it a lot more than I almost anticipated. If you'd asked me after just doing some of those training sims in the game, I would have been like, this is like a 5. It's a 5 because I can't. I'm confused. There's a lot going on. There's so many buttons. I can't handle this. But actually getting into the game, actually getting into the plot, actually playing through with the different ships and everything like that, I was like, this is way more enjoyable than I was feeling before. I felt less overwhelmed in the missions, ironically enough, than I did in some of the training simulations. And I'm not sure. I think it's because even though they were trying to help me by telling me what to do, when I didn't do it in a timely manner, I started panicking. And so when I was in the missions, you have a little bit more flexibility on that. And I think that helped. So not as high of a score as I think you would have wanted me to give. But for a flight sim, for me, that's not half bad. So a 7.5. I predicted I was going to give it an 8. I predicted I was going to give it an 8, so slightly lower, but higher than my Rose score of a 7, which was probably BS because I never played this game.
I'm still going to say a joystick would have been better.
Probably. But
And I say that, and if you look at the VODs, it's these old joysticks, and this was something I think we talked about on your stream.
Yeah.
It was something that I was totally unconscious that I was doing, and I just wiggle the joystick right around the dead area because old joysticks are terrible. So it's like trying to keep that breakout force to 0 because you need to be so precise. I'm glad this isn't actually on camera because what I'm doing with my hand looks fairly obscene. But anyway, would you recommend someone to play this?
if you love Star Wars, yes. It's worth a shot just for a little bit. It has the introduction of characters that make their way into the canon universe, which is kind of amazing. It's a classic. Is it going to be frustrating? Absolutely. Especially if you don't know flight sims very well. But it was a lot of fun. You can get used to it. If you can get a joystick, do it. But a controller worked. It was harder, but it worked for me. Play Steam, the original version on Steam, which you can buy all the different versions on Steam. And then you can use a keyboard, which sounds awful to me. But yeah, you could just do that. And a mouse. The mouse is the more important part of that.
Did you set it to easy?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you knew that was a thing.
Oh yeah, of course I was on easy mode. So definitely would recommend it to Star Wars fans, especially flight sim Star Wars fans, which I believe it's a pretty select group, but still. Yeah. Still, they would enjoy it. What about you, Chris? I assume you would recommend it.
Oh, of course. Go and play it if you like flight sims. Well, if you like flight sims, go play it because it's a fun fly around. Yeah. It's not going to be realistic.
No.
But
it's in
if you
space
like Star Wars,
with space
and if you like Star Wars Squadrons, go play this damn game because it's better, in my opinion.
So now it's that time. These are for our giveaway, our hat giveaway time. So we have producer Lisa setting up the final drawing and rolling through. Everyone is eligible this as long as you were chatting while we were talking. So hopefully you got your chats in during this time.
Last call.
And you have to be around. Did we say you gotta be here?
Yes.
Yeah.
So hopefully you're still here. Do we still have? We've got an exception for someone who doesn't have.
Well, no, he's here.
Yeah.
He's here. He just can't talk.
He has to message us on the other account.
Go ahead and I'd say pull that trigger, producer Lisa.
Okay. And other people are allowed to win again, right?
Yes, they are allowed to win again because it's a different type of prize. It
depends on how much we like them.
It's the grand prize.
Okay, grand prize goes to. Oh my god. Ryan Jankowski again.
Hey!
Sorry for the people who didn't win anything. We did say you could win again.
So congrats, Brian. Again, you'll reach out to us so we can get the info. So
I already got it.
Oh, producer Lisa already has it. So thanks again, everyone. Honestly, thank you everyone for showing up today on live. Really appreciate you guys hanging out. It's been a ton of fun. So maybe we'll do another one of these at some point in time. We'll figure it out. But we're not going to do it live. But Chris, what's our next episode going to be?
Our next episode is Final Fantasy VII.
It's finally time. It's Final Fantasy VII time.
This was supposed to be our second episode.
We had talked about it.
And then we realized we should not do that.
Final Fantasy VII. We're so excited. It's going to come out. The episode will be out in 4 weeks because we are still playing the game. Because it's a long game, guys, but we love it so much. Check out the stream over on Twitch, GWGW Show. Talk to us on social media. We love hearing from you all. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, GWGW Show, or Games We Grew Up With. If you're watching live, you know we're on YouTube at Games We Grew Up With. If you're listening to the VOD, please check out Games We Grew Up With on YouTube. We have fun clips there. You're going to see this episode and all of our shenanigans there, so there's going to be extra stuff on the live version of the episode that you won't have heard on your podcasting platform. So check that out if you want to see some more fun stuff. And genuinely, thank you so much for everyone. It's been 2 years since we started this podcast. We've had so much freaking fun.
It's been so much fun, yeah.
It's so great getting to know all of you. It's so great interacting with everyone. It means so much to us. We've had so much fun so far. So thank you so much. Here's to another year of absolute nonsense that we're going to be passing on. Thank you to our producers. You guys are the backbone of what we do. We really couldn't do this without you. I know normally Chris says that, but I stole his line today.
That's fair. I did a ton of talking today.
You did all the talking today. But again, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. We really look forward to seeing you on some of our other platforms. Anything else, Chris?
Say goodbye, Katie.
Goodbye, Katie.
Yeah, bye everyone.
Bye everyone. Thank you so much.
Also, we're not actually ending the stream, so if you want to keep chatting, stick around.
There you go.
We didn't say that beforehand.
We're back.
I thought, hey, we're back.
Now
it's an encore.
It's an encore. Chris, you can hit stop record, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I guess I can do that.
So thank you again to everyone. We are officially out of episode recording time, but really, thank you so much for everyone who came to our YouTube live. This is so much fun.
Oh, this was a ton of fun.
Really glad everyone could come hang out with us. You see producer Lisa in the background. I think you saw producer Kyle walk by at some point. So it's awesome. Thank you so much. This worked out better than I think we thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be one of the best. So
yeah, this was a ton of fun. I was gonna say it's one of those. It's like I wanted to talk to people in the chat, but
yeah, we try to respond to chat every once in a while.
We tried to.
We had a lot going on. But honestly, thank you guys so much. We will be back to normal streaming over on Twitch in the future, but maybe,
soon, because we got a lot of Final Fantasy VII to play.
But, let us know, again, on social media. If you think YouTube is somewhere you'd prefer to watch, maybe we'll do some YouTube streams every once in a while. We'll try to figure it out. We're trying to make sure that everyone can hang out when they can.
Yeah. I saw PK feet.
I mean, yes, his feet do appear randomly. He's ignoring us now.
Oh, I thought... I just realized you're still wearing that white shirt, which just...
makes him look like a ghost.
I was going to say kills the white balance for this camera.
I'm too white for the camera.
Yeah, it's fair.
So I think that's going to be where we're wrapping up. Thank you again. Appreciate everyone so much. You are awesome. We look forward to seeing you on social media, on our streams, anywhere we can. Hope everyone has a lovely Tuesday, and we'll see you all around. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good night. Thank you guys.